Magandang araw, magkape po tayo. Hello there. I made this video because somebody asked me the difference between in quarantine and under quarantine. Okay, so that's what we're going to discuss today. Which one is correct? In quarantine or under quarantine? Sometimes prepositions are confusing. So if you are also confused about the use of in quarantine and under quarantine, which one is correct, then this video is for you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, let's go. Here are some stories posted in the internet that use both in quarantine and under quarantine, which really are so confusing. So as you can see, while in self-quarantine, he is under home quarantine. Okay. And then some more examples here. We have their life under quarantine in London. Announces that she is in self-quarantine for 10 days. And then you have life under quarantine, and then Duterte puts Philippines under quarantine. Okay, and then last, why anxious readers under quarantine? Turn to Mrs. Dalloway, share your story of life in quarantine. So all of them use both in and under quarantine. Okay, so what is quarantine? Let us take a look at the definition of quarantine first. It is the isolation of a person or a group of people to prevent the spread of infection to others. Okay, the definition is very clear, but it isn't clear how we use different prepositions with the word quarantine. Okay, so let's begin with under. Under quarantine is much less common than in quarantine. Here are some examples. All close contacts of the COVID-19 cases have been placed under quarantine. Many countries put their entire population under strict quarantine in order to prevent the spread of the disease. Okay, compare these examples on how in quarantine appears in the following sentences. Some schools are offering meals to students in quarantine. The Philippines requires a 10-day stay in hotel quarantine for all the travelers. Note that the words put and place appear before under quarantine in our examples. In short, it is not wrong to use either under or in before the word quarantine, but many speakers would be more likely to use under quarantine after the verb put or place. So you can use either in quarantine or under quarantine, just that in under quarantine there are the words put and place before under quarantine. So in and under are both correct. The only difference is the use of put and place before the word under. Okay, for your additional learning, let's see the difference between quarantine and isolation. Isolation separates people with contagious disease from people who are not sick, while quarantine separates and restricts the movement of people who were exposed to a contagious disease to see if they become sick. These people may have been exposed to a disease and do not know it, or they may have the disease but do not show symptoms. So in short, people in isolation have tested or have been tested positive, while those in quarantine are exposed only but not yet sure if they are positive or not. Okay, so that's the difference between isolation and quarantine. Thank you very much, and I hope you learned something. I'll see you again in my next video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. God bless you all.